This video is for those who want to learn economics in English. In December 2022, reports were taken up in Japan that worried about the recession in the United States. The trigger is that the Central Bank of the United States has announced that it will reduce the rate hike. Prior to that, there were 4 consecutive 0.75% rate hikes, but this time it will be reduced to 0.5%. So why is it that just reducing rate hikes is being treated as a recession? I would like to verify the reason. There are 2 reasons. The first reason is that the economy, which had been active until now, has started to show signs of slowing down, so it can be seen that the rate hikes have been reduced as a countermeasure. Since the reduction in interest rate hikes is a measure to make it easier to borrow money from banks and to allow more money to circulate in the market, we can see signs of an economic downturn. Second, the current interest rate situation is that long-term interest rates are lower than short-term interest rates. This is also seen as a sign of the economic downturn. In order to explain the above 2 points a little more concretely, I will explain from the background before this news. Before this news, the United States was in a state of inflation with prices rising as the coronavirus calmed down and consumption became active. Inflation occurs when demand exceeds supply, causing the price of goods to rise. If the price of things rises due to inflation, the value of money will decrease because you can't buy the same things unless you pay a lot of money. The Central Bank of the United States was raising interest rates to counter inflation. The reason for raising interest rates as a countermeasure against inflation is that it makes it difficult for companies and individuals to borrow money from banks, and by refraining from investing and buying goods, it is possible to create a situation in which there is a surplus of goods in the market. If supply exceeds demand, it will be difficult to sell goods, and as a result, it will be difficult to raise prices, so we can expect inflation to be contained. Also, in October, the interest rate differential between Japan, where interest rates are low, and the United States, which is raising interest rates, widened, causing the yen to depreciate to more than 150 yen to the dollar at one point. Meanwhile, in December 2022, there was news that the Central Bank of the United States would reduce the policy interest rate hike from 0.75% to 0.5%. Overall policy rates are between 4.25 and 4.5%. Why, then, is it called a recession just by reducing the scale of rate hikes? There are 2 possible reasons for this, as explained above. The first is that the rate hikes that have been carried out over the past 4 months have been reduced, and it is now perceived that the economic heating has subsided and there are signs of a deterioration in the economy. An interest rate hike is a measure taken when the economy is active and prices are rising, that is, when inflation occurs. This reduction in interest rate hikes was seen as a concern for the economic downturn. It is important to note that this is only a reduction in the rate hike, not a rate cut. The timing of the rate cut is reportedly when there is confirmation that the inflation rate will continue to fall to 2%. Note that rate cuts, aka monetary easing, are usually reserved for recessions. This is because lowering the interest rate makes it easier for companies and individuals to borrow money from banks, making it easier for the recessionary economy to become more active. The second reason is called the recession. Long-term interest rates are now said to be completely lower than short-term interest rates. It is even said that the economy has never been without a recession. I will add a reason for this point. There is usually movement in the economy. Interest rates are an indicator of the economy. There are 2 types of interest rates, long-term interest rates and short-term interest rates, and long-term interest rates move ahead of short-term interest rates. Since long-term interest rates are currently lower than short-term interest rates, there is a high possibility that short-term interest rates will also be lowered with a slight delay. In fact, suppose that the short-term interest rate, which is called the policy interest rate, is going down in the future, that is, the interest rate is cut. A rate cut, also known as monetary easing, is a measure taken to make it easier for businesses and individuals to borrow money from banks during a recession. This is the opposite of raising interest rates and is a measure to revitalize the economy. In other words, based on the positional relationship between long-term and short-term interest rates, it is possible to predict that the economy will be forced to revitalize in the future. This is the second reason why there were reports in Japan about the U.S. recession as of December 2022. One more point, I will explain why the concerns about the recession in the United States are being taken up in Japan as well. The reason is that America is a consuming country and Japan is an exporting country. There is a great possibility that the economy of the United States, the destination of consumption, will affect the Japanese economy in the future. Finally, a summary. In December 2022, there was a report in Japan that worried about the recession of the United States. Reasons for fear of recession include: rate hikes have declined. Long-term interest rates are lower than short-term interest rates. The above 2 points are considered to be the reasons for the concern about the recession. Thank you for watching until the end.